Yo, what is going on, guys? Welcome back to another video. It's Tuesday, which means it's time for our weekly tier list Tuesday. And I know that I missed last week. Sorry, playoffs got things really busy. But today we are back with another tier list. And we're going to be looking at every single general manager, how they did solely this season. Basically, when their team was eliminated last year from like May to now. How did they do when looking at offseason trades, draft, free agency, deadline, everything that goes into it? We are making it into one big tier list. So without further ado, let's get into it. And up first, we got a pretty easy one. Barry Trotz. It's bad. It's horrible. He was your pick in the Bonnies Awards. If you haven't watched that video yet, feel free to go check it out. Yeah, he was your pick for the worst general manager this season, and it makes sense considering he signed two of the worst free agency contracts in Stamkos and Brady Shea. Traded away Askarov, said, I'm confident in this group right now. I'm rolling with Soros instead of the future. And then they had the third worst record at the NHL. And even at the deadline, it's not like he prioritized the future that much. He only traded Nyquist, who was only pending unrestricted free agent, for a second-round pick. Yeah, it's a season that you want to forget about if you're Barry Trotz. Had an okay draft, but really like nothing special. Julien Brisebois, on the flip side of that, that is great what he did this offseason when looking at it. Tough decisions, really tough decisions. First up, he brought Ryan McDonough. That was an easy decision. But then he had to trade Sergachev to make the money work. He had to let Stamkos go in free agency, brought in Gensel instead at only $1 million more than what Stamkos got at the deadline. Although it's unfortunate that Bjorkstrand got hurt. You can't really blame him for that. And he also has Bjorkstrand for next year. It's not like it's just a rental. Brought in Yanni Gord as well. Even if they don't win a round right now, they're down 2-1 to the Florida Panthers. Actually, I'm filming this on Monday. I just exposed myself. But even if they lose to the Florida Panthers in this series, I still think that he did a great job. And next year, they'll yet again be a contender because of what he did this year. Kyle Dubas, I'm going to go with good. It's hard to be good in a season where you miss the playoffs pretty easily and you have this aging core. But I thought he had a really good draft, picking up a guy like Brunicki in the second round, as well as he didn't have his first round pick, but he had Max Swanson later in the draft, a high prolific offensive guy that's a little bit undersized. I prioritized the future at the deadline. Got a first round pick that might be like 11th overall for Marcus Pettersson. That was a great deal, and a bunch of solid other mid round picks for guys that I didn't think had much value. Got Luke Shen, then flipped Luke Shen for a second round pick. Good year by Kyle Dubas. He's got to hit it in the draft these next couple years, but in terms of a rebuilding team, I think he really did a really good job. And he picked a lane this year instead of having some kind of another Carlson move in terms of giving up future assets. Lamoriello, I might get killed for this. I'm going. You could argue good. I'm going with solid. Just this year. I'm not talking Engvall Mayfield extensions. I'm not talking Bo Horvat trades. I'm talking just this offseason. Really like his draft, obviously, getting Cole Yzerman at 20th overall. In free agency, the Duclair deal doesn't look good, but I think when Patrick Waugh's out of the way, he can bounce back, and injuries played a big factor in that. And then at the deadline, did have one of the best deadline trades from a seller's perspective, getting Cal Ritchie in a first-round pick for Brock Nelson, an expiring guy. So I think Saplakov came over from Russia. He's been an impact guy as well. Signed him for only $950,000. So I think Lamoriello actually did a good job. Obviously, he got fired because the prior 2 years he'd be in meh or just straight up bad prior 3 years. But I think this season was actually pretty solid by Lou Lamoriello. I know I might be a little bit biased. Steve Yzerman this summer did not really do much to improve the team. Actually hurt the team by trading Jake Wallman in a second-round pick for future considerations. Tarasenko trade 2 years, or Tarasenko signing 2 years, $4.75 million. Not a fan of that. He did not produce nearly to that level. As well as in the draft, Brent Nygaard was an okay pick. I don't think that he killed the draft by any stretch. At the deadline, didn't really do much. He did good. Actually, I might move him up because he did re-sign and extend Raymond and Moritz-Seider are pretty team-friendly deals, especially Raymond, who's already easily worth $8.07 million. So I'll move him up because of that. He got the two core pieces locked up, but basically everything else. Cam Talbot was also a pretty good signing. I got to shout him out there. But yeah, they regressed, and when you expected them potentially make the playoffs. Ron Francis, bad. Chandler Stevenson is one of the worst free agency signings of the 2020s, I'd go so far to say, even though he did have 51 points. A lot of it came on the power play, horrible at even strength. Montour, $7 million, he's even worth $7 million right now at 30 years old. I'm not so sure. I did like the pick of Berkeley Cadden in the draft at 8th overall. But besides that, the court deal is actually looking pretty good. But yeah, he went aggressive. I guess you actually technically got to move him into meh just because, again, at the deadline, he did recognize the sell. He should get fired because of those free agency signings, but beyond that, it actually wasn't so bad. Chris Drury, I'm going to go with bad. Just when looking at, he didn't really improve the team this summer. In the draft, he took E.J. Emery, who I like as a defensive defenseman, but had like 1 point in 30 games at the University of North Dakota. You got to give me some offense if you're going to play at the NHL level. Brought in Riley Smith, clearly did not unlock Kreider and Zibanejad at 5-on-5. They had their worst seasons. Lafreniere, as soon as he signed that extension, started to play like shit. Shesterkin, big deal. Kind of got bullied around in those negotiations, $11.5 million compared to his other peers. Traded Jacob Trouba. That was a really good deal. Somehow got a 4th-round pick for Jacob Trouba, but then 2 weeks later got basically nothing for Capo Caco and then extended that nothing piece. Morgan's been good for them, but 5 years, $4.1 million is ridiculous. Traded for JT Miller. I don't hate the value if they were actually a half-decent team, but again, they're going to probably like the 11th overall pick potentially this year for JT Miller. I can't say I'm a fan of what Chris Drury did this season. Don Waddell in Columbus, when looking at it in the draft, did take a sizable risk on Caden Lindstrom. I still somewhat defend that pick to a degree. I think if he's fully healthy, he can be a stud. Should have went with Demidov, but I like Caden Lindstrom to a degree. Free agency, might have signed the best free agency contract that we saw this summer in Sean Monahan, 5 years, $5.5 million. I believe he extended Marchenko this summer, 3 years, $3.85 million. That's one of the best contracts, one of the best value contracts, shorter term in the NHL after the season that he had. Needs to fix the goalie position this summer, although Jack Greaves was playing so good. But a dumped Line, which he got clowned on at the time, but clearly locker room-wise, they responded very well. And again, overcoming the loss of Johnny Gaudreau, you got to give Don Waddell his flowers, his first year on the job, making such an immediate impact, not only in terms of moves, but setting a culture that maybe Jarmo Kekalainen lacked. Patrick Galvin, I'm going to go with... the thing is, the JT Miller deal was actually good if you didn't flip it for Marcus Pettersson. And I like Marcus Pettersson a lot, but he probably should have kept that 1st-round pick that now might be 11th overall. I think I'm going to go with the man. I can't really blame him for Elias Pettersson falling off a cliff or Thatcher Demko having, like, noodles for knees. So... the DeBrusk signing actually worked out. He smartly did not extend Lindholm and Zadorov, thank God. So I'll go with meh. Should have traded Brock Besser at the deadline. That's kind of inexcusable, but I'm not going to kill this guy. There were some factors out of his control that led to this team just being a big disappointment. Kent Hughes, I think you got to go with... I could argue great. Whoops, I'm trying to drag him over and it's not letting me. I think definitely good. Maybe I will move him up. Ivan Demidov, obviously at 5th overall. Amazing pick. Got Line, although Line not worth $8.7 million. Got a 2nd-round pick to take on Patrick Line. Michael Hage also in the draft was a solid pickup. Not a ton of moves in terms of free agency. Extended Slavkovsky. Still needs to earn that $7.6 million, but I think that he will eventually. I think that will age. It doesn't kick in until next season. So, yeah, I think he did a pretty damn good job this season. Steve Staios, I think you could argue great. He addressed the goaltending position, although Omar maybe isn't playing good in the playoffs. This objective this season was just to get into the playoffs. The Ridley Gregg extension is looking pretty solid. I think Steve Staios on the whole did a pretty good. Nick Jensen, he was in a really tough spot with Jacob Chychrun to get a veteran right-handed defenseman that was so good in the regular season for them. Talent-wise, not comparable, but in terms of just team fit and ending up working out, very good job. Doug Armstrong, you definitely got to go with great. I was very low on this team heading into the offseason. Utilizes offer sheets that we rarely see in the NHL to get Holloway for only a 3rd-round pick and only $2.2 million. Absolute steal. We knew in the moment that one was a steal. And even Broberg, we thought he was a little bit crazy for that one. He played like a 4.6, if not more, kind of defenseman and worth that 2nd-round pick. And then also Cam Fowler, amazing deal. Did not give up. I believe he gave up a 2nd-round pick, but also got a 4th-round pick back in that trade. So, yeah, Doug Armstrong. Unk still got it. Unk still definitely got it. And hopefully Alexander Steen is taking notes because he takes over at the start of the 2026-2027 season, or maybe he takes over during the 2026 offseason. Bill Armstrong, I'll go with solid. Let's run through what he did. I like the Sergachev deal, although he gave up a decent amount of assets. He's a legit number 1 defenseman. Maybe I'll move him up a little bit. The draft, TJ Inlet 6th, wouldn't have been my pick, but I don't hate it by any means. Cole Bodwin was okay at 25th overall. John Marino, when healthy, can be a solid pickup. And yeah, am I missing anything big with Utah? I don't really think so. I think he did a good job landing a guy. They clearly needed an offensive number one defenseman, and Sergachev's still like 26 years old. So they have guys like Lamoriello. They have guys like Simashev in the system, more so defensive guys. So Bill Armstrong checked off a major box in terms of his core this offseason. Next up, we got Chris Patrick. Easy, great. My pick for the Jim Gregory right now. The overwhelming amount of good moves. Steals, like Logan Thompson for 2 third-round picks. PLD, big-time win-win, especially when they had that Thompson deal up and coming, potentially in their holster to get done. Mangiapane for a second is maybe his one, like not great one, but killed it in the draft with Cole Hudson. Tarek Parasak, okay at 17th overall. I didn't exactly love that pick. But yeah, great job by Chris Patrick this season from the Washington Capitals. I know some of it was Brian McClellan as a general manager. And Beauvillier gave up a second-round pick for him. I kind of clowned that in the moment. He has 5 points in 4 games right now in the playoffs. So pretty damn good job there. Bill Guerin, I'll go with solid. The Brock Faber extension isn't exactly aging fantastic. Not saying it's some kind of disaster. Again, he's 22 years old. He's going to be a solid, good top pair defenseman at the bare minimum throughout his prime. That's fine at $8.5 million. Draft Zeev Boyum, though, that is definitely a big plus when looking at the Minnesota Wild, getting that potential offensive defenseman that they need that's already making an impact in the playoffs. So good on that. Outside of that, no real notable extensions, I believe. Free agency, the Yakov Trenin deal really wasn't that good in my opinion. But yeah, I'm a big fan of Billy G. This season, kind of just solid. He didn't really completely turn into his bag and make some amazing moves. Mike Grier, I think you can argue great. It's kind of tough because obviously in the draft, you got Mac and Sabrin. You can't really give him too much credit for that. The consensus number 1 first overall pick. But trading up to get a guy like Sam Dickinson, also in that draft, picked up guys like Igor Chernishev at 33rd overall, Leo Salin Wallenius, a guy that's I'm very high on. In the second round, in terms of free agency, brought in a guy like Toffoli that had 30 goals this season, $6.25 million, big impact guy for some of their younger guys. Traded Wallman for a first-round pick after getting him into second-round pick for nothing, as well as Granlund for a first-round pick despite not having those retention spots. It was really impressive by Mike Grier this season. I know he's not going to be on Jim Gregory ballots because he was the worst team in the entire NHL, but in terms of the rebuild, yet again, an amazing season building those assets, just getting a shit ton of assets and actually hitting on those assets, it appears like, in the draft. Next up, we have Tom Fitzgerald, and he was an early candidate for like Jim Gregory because the Devils were safely in a playoff spot at first. Then Markstrom kind of slowed down a decent amount. They obviously dealt with some serious injuries that have kind of cooked their season entirely. I think I'm going to go with solid. Yeah, solid draft. Salayev, Yegorov was a good pick in the second round to fortify the goaltending position down the line. Pesci, Dillon, good. Gave a decent amount of term to those guys where it could be a little bit risky. At the deadline, made some depth moves. Cody Glass actually provided a little bit of an offensive spark. It's tough because once Jack Hughes got hurt, their season was effectively over. It's definitely closer to good than meh, but I think solid is pretty fair for him. A little good grade. Eric Tulsky, some great depth moves. Couldn't afford to maintain a lot of guys within his team, so instead he had to go bargain hunting. 3 years, $3.2 million for Shane Gottisbehere. I think we could agree that was very good. 45 points in 70 games this season. Sean Walker deal looks pretty good. Eric Robinson's been killing it. Jack Roslovic's also been very good. He extended Seth Jarvis at 8 years, $7.42 million. Swung on Rantanen, but again, at the end of the day, he only gave up Natchez, a second, a fourth, and Drury for Stankoven, 2 firsts and 2 thirds. I think you live with that, and it extends their timeline maybe a little bit longer by getting Stankoven, who's 4 or 5 years younger than Martin Natchez. So he's going to get a lot of shit for that Rantanen deal. But again, they're up 3-1, and they could potentially go on some kind of run, and they got a lot of future assets net positive on that. Next up, we got Stan Bowman, and maybe I am biased just because he wasn't the Chicago Blackhawks when they had the Kyle Beach thing, but I'm going with bad. I'm not going to kill him for the Broberg offer sheet. Again, $4.6 million for a guy that was barely cracking their lineup and was inconsistent. Take the second round pick. I understood that. But Dylan Holloway, $2.2 million, like high fourth liner money. The fact that they were not willing to find a way to carve that out, he absolutely deserves to get clowned. At this year's deadline, Wallman was a good ad, but not really like an ad of need. They didn't improve the goaltender, and that's why they went down 2-0 to the LA Kings. So, yeah, he didn't really address any real needs, and they might end up winning the series against the LA Kings. Again, it's tied 2-2. But, yeah, I think Stan Bowman kind of did a bad job. Brad Treliving, I'm going with great. When looking at him in free agency, traded for a guy like Chris Tanev before, he gave up a seventh round pick. Too much term on that deal, too much term with OEL, but I think we could agree Toronto's defense core is arguably the best of the Matthews era. Stolarz was fantastic. At the deadline, went after guys that were not just rentals that have a year of term next year to yet again be a high-level contender by getting Carlo, by getting Lawton. Gave up a decent amount to get both, don't get me wrong. But yeah, I think in terms of turning this team into a serious threat, I think he did achieve that. Kevin Cheveldayoff, I think I'm going to go with solid. He didn't really do much this season. Not saying he had like the salary cap to do so, but yeah, he already put the core in place. He didn't get an extension done with Ehlers. Maybe Ehlers just wants to leave, and he is going to leave. But yeah, at this year's deadline, didn't really go for it. Only got Tanev and Shen for 2 second-round picks, and as a result, they're on their backs right now against the St. Louis Blues, tied up 2-2. Should have made some kind of splash because this team needed to go on a deep run. And right now they're in a tough spot. They're definitely in a tough spot. And again, although they're President Trophy winners, again, look, what did he do this summer in terms of improving this team massively? It's not like he signed any huge extensions, I believe. Velarde's still a pending RFA. Neil Pionk, I don't like that extension, 6 years, $7 million. So yeah, I think I'm just going to go with solid. Jim Nill, I'll go with good. Re-signed Matt Duchene yet again somehow for $3 million. Got the Wyatt Johnson extension done. That's a steal. 5 years, $8.4 million. Mikko Rantanen, jury is definitely still out. Jury's leaning towards kind of a little bit of an overpayment right now in terms of what they gave up in the contract. But jury's still deliberating. We got to wait until like halfway through next season. What else did this guy do? He got Thomas Harley on a 2-year deal at $4 million. That was absolutely insane. He got Jake Ottinger done at $8.25 million. Solid deal there, playing very good in the playoffs. So yeah, I don't think that this was some legendary Jim Nill season that he won the Jim Gregory the prior 2 years. But again, a very good deal. Picked Emil Hemming in the draft. I was lukewarm on that. I don't know. Bill Zito, I'll go with good. I still don't love the Seth Jones trade as much as others. I still really don't. They gave up Spencer Knight in a first-round pick. I like Spencer Knight a decent amount. But, yeah, had to replace a decent amount this offseason. Didn't have any splashy kind of offseason moves. But, yeah, he brought this team back, got Marchand for a second-round pick, conditional second-round pick. Great deal, and that kind of elevates him to good. Didn't really have any draft picks. To my knowledge, he got Sam Reinhart's extended at 8 years, 8.6. So he's definitely deserving of that good tier. Damn good deal there. Interesting to see what he's going to do with Aaron Ekblad, with Sam Bennett. Got Verhaeghe done 7 or 8 years at $7.1 million, although Verhaeghe's actually not playing very good right now. So that deal doesn't look fantastic, or he hasn't been playing good on the season. But I still think that's a solid deal. Chris McFarland, I'm going to go with great. Gave up a shit ton of assets to do so, but in terms of improving this team, turning this team into a contender, like we saw in Game 4 of the series versus the Dallas Stars versus the Colorado Avalanche, yeah, Brock Nelson plugged up his second-line center. Mackenzie Blackwood didn't really give up much in that deal, just gave up a second-round pick. He did a very good job moving off Rantanen. People thought that he was crazy in the moment. I still think Rantanen's a better player than Martin Necas, but that has aged pretty well, and I think Chris McFarland, as a result, deserves that spot. Pat Verbeek, I'll go with Matt, the Seneca pick. I still don't love it. Should have went Demidov, no doubt, in my opinion, and even Seneca was like my 12th best prospect. Had a good draft year +1. I will give him shouts. He's definitely a top 10 in a redraft, but still not a huge fan of that. In terms of their trades, I don't know what he was cooking, taking on Jacob Trouba and giving him up a 4th-round pick in the process. Utilize your cap space better, brother. Fowler, he had to move off him, and he did get a 2nd-round pick, although St. Louis clearly won that. I'm not going to kill him for that. Free agency didn't really do something. He needs to, if he doesn't move off John Gibson this summer when his value is the highest it's been in like 5 years, that's going to be egregious. But yeah, I think a meh is fair for him. Rob Blake, solid. The Kuzmenko deal actually did end up panning out pretty well. He re-signed Quinton Byfield as well, 5 years, 6.25, although he got off to a slow start this season. That deal is looking pretty damn good. So yeah, I think overall, a solid season by Rob Blake. That Kuzmenko has really saved him to a degree. Craig Cronin.
I'm editing this video at the intermission of the Lightning and Panthers game. I cannot believe that I just said Greg Cronin instead of Craig Conroy. It's embarrassing.
I think that he's done a good job. I think you can maybe even argue a great job. if he sold more at the deadline, if he moved off like Erasmus Anderson, I really would have liked it. But he did not. He really did nothing. And if anything, he bought. I do like the Frost and Farabee deal to a degree. Didn't give up much as a second-round pick. But this summer, he really cooked in terms of getting that first-round pick for the Devils for Jacob Markstrom, a first-round pick that's probably going to be 18th or 19th overall. So that was awesome. In the draft, got Zane Parekh in the draft. Also got guys like Henry Muse, Luke Misa, Jacob Battaglia. Very good draft by him. Moved off Mangiapane for a second-round pick. So I know I'm giving too many people great jobs, but there's some GMs that are really going for it that got great jobs. And then Conroy and Mike Grier, I think, in kind of rebuilds. The Armstrong and more so of a retool did a really great job. Kevin Adams, I think he's kind of meh. The Zucker deal was pretty solid. Outside of that, I did not like the Josh Norris trade. Why did you trade for a guy that is so injury-prone? Shocker. 3 games in, he gets injured and gets shut down for the rest of the season. In the draft, I did really like the Constellinius pick, though. But overall, when you yet again take a step back with your young core, you're probably going to get a meh. Kelly McCrimmon didn't really have the cap flexibility to do much this offseason. Had to let Marchessault go. Had to let other guys go. But yeah, Vegas is yet again a highly contending team. At the deadline, I like that they kind of bought low. They got a guy like Riley Smith that's used to the system and have retained, as well as bringing in Brandon Saad as an unrestricted free agent mid-season for cheap. So he did a solid job. But again, with Vegas' salary cap situation, Trevor Conley was a good pick in terms of the upside. I think solid is pretty fair. Danny Briere, I think the draft really killed me though. Why did he do that? Trading out. He traded out of the 31st overall pick with Edmonton. That was a smart move at the draft. That pick, unless Edmonton makes the Stanley Cup final, is going to be higher this year. Yeah, outside of that, I didn't hate moving off Frost and Farabee just because they're already in their mid-20s where you're going to give them some kind of long-term contract, kind of commit to one more year of sucking. They have a shit ton of picks this season. Will they hit on this picks? He moves off Scott Lawton as well, finally, after years of speculation regarding that. And he got Matvei Michkov over. So I think that he did a pretty good job. Kyle Davidson, I'll go with meh. I ain't going to lie. Closer to solid than meh. Closer to solid than meh. Okay, relax. But in the draft, he went with Leshinov. And I still think Leshinov's going to be a good player for a long time. But he should have went with Ivan Demidov. When looking at that, some of his free agency signings, can't say I exactly love. They weren't even that good of a team. It's not like they took some. They did take a big step in the standings, but still second worst. It's okay. I think he did okay. Should have traded Ryan Donato at the deadline. I do like the Seth Jones trade a decent amount. Maybe I should move him up to solid. No, I'll keep him in meh. I've been too nice to some of these guys. Don Sweeney obviously goes at bad. In the draft, selects Dean Latorno, 25th overall, who has like 3 points in 35 games at Boston College, as well as signing definitely one of the worst free agency signings in Elias Lindholm, 7 years, $7.5 million. Zadorov, 6 years, $5 million. They go from a 109-point team to like 75 points. He did have a good deadline, but again, I can't congratulate a guy that was kind of forced to sell because some of his offseason moves went so goddamn bad. Traded Linus Ullmark for basically not nothing, but again, drafted Latorno with that pick, and Korpisalo has been a net negative on the team, so almost negative value. Cash still has been okay. But yeah, just disastrous. Got tossed around by Swayman's camp, so he definitely gets a bad grading. Let me know in the comments. I'm trying to think. Am I being too nice? Am I forgetting one move by one of these guys? It's perfectly possible. I did write up a bunch of notes on these guys, so hopefully I didn't miss some shit. But let me know in the comments. I'm sure people are going to want Lewin bad or something like that. But I think this is fair. I think most GMs are pretty decent at their job. I got outside of, what is that? Outside of 9 of them, so 22 are, yeah, 23 out of, Jesus, math. 23 out of 32 I have at least in solid. So, yeah, let me know in the comments. What do you think about this one?
Editor Mike has something to say. What I think. Ken Hughes actually should be in great. He should be.
That was fun to do. That was a long-ass video. Thank you for sticking around. If you're watching this, I'll be seeing you in the next one. Peace.